Social Engineering for Good. My name is Isaac Painter. Just got to get this out of the way from the beginning. Views expressed are my own and those of my past or current employers. So a little bit about me. I've been married for 15 years. I have 4 kids. I've been in the cybersecurity industry about 17 plus years. Worked for Adobe, Intermountain Health, Protiviti, NPR, and PBS, and Security Metrics. Currently the executive director, head of ICT security at Omni, a JP Morgan company. I've spoken at OWASP Global, Cloud Security Alliance, Cybercraft, and Upray Cyber Slope Summit. I published articles for RSA, Security Magazine, Stay Safe Online, and what you just saw as I wrote and produced a series of security awareness videos. I gave CISA the distribution rights, and now they're popularly used by state, federal, large companies, and SMBs across the nation. And then if you want the videos, here's a QR code to a site where all of them are listed. It's all 8 of the videos. There's downloadable links. Where I played it from was YouTube, but on the QR code takes you to the site where you can actually download them from Stay Safe Online, which is an arm of CISA. All right, still a few cameras up. I'll give you guys a second before I go on. All right. So if we think about the universes of security risk, I'm going to really break this down to technology risk, and then there's human risk. So technology risk is, if we zoom way out, really, technology risk is mostly handled by like engineering, information security, and IT take care of most of the technology risk. The human risk come when really every other department is involved, and they're not securing the technology. They're the humans that are causing the risk with the technology. So if you actually Google human security risk, almost every article calls it human error. And I don't like to call it that because that's like saying, can I have a Big Mac with meat, please? Or I'd like to go skiing with snow. Humans and errors are synonymous. It's redundant. Humans are risky because we all err. So let's just call it what it is. Human risks, humans are risk, errors and all. And just giving an illustration here, we don't call it technology error when we're talking about vulnerabilities that they cause. It's really about technology risk. So let's be consistent, call it technology risk and human risk. So let's zoom way out here and really define what human risk is. So we could simplify this and say human risk is simply defined as humans doing dumb things. That is true, but let's be more kind to the human race and not assume everyone are idiots. So let's really actually understand the human condition and the human mind. And that's really done through the study of psychology. So the definition of psychology is the scientific study of the human mind and its functions, especially those affecting behavior in a given context. So to decrease human risk in a security context, highlighting the word behavior in a given context, we have to study psychology. And frankly, that's what attackers are doing. That's what adversaries are doing, is they're studying psychology and how to manipulate humans to exploit human risk. So the big red X here is, I had to get this presentation approved by my employer, and they said, you have to remove this slide. Well, I'm not going to remove this slide, but I'll remove the content, just tell you what the content said. So we all are familiar, if you just Google what are data breaches that have been caused by human risk, you guys will find them. Just Google them. There's tons and tons and tons that are caused by human risk. And again, most news articles will call it human error. There are many that we don't even know about that aren't even reported. So I'm taking a number of different articles that I've read here, and I'm just summarizing it and taking an average. So the statistics vary here widely. Sometimes they vary widely to promote a product to say 100% of this risk is caused by, and then whatever that product fixes. So understood that some of it is skewed, but I'm just trying to take an average here. But 48% of risk are breaches are caused by technology risk. 52% of them are caused by human risk. And really going back to this whole idea of like bringing down technology and human risk, like you could argue this, and I had to stop breaking it down at some point. You could say, okay, God is responsible for all risk because he created humans. Okay, we got to stop at some point. So I'm going to stop at breaking it down at technology risk and human risk. But really this number is being conservative. I I literally got this email just a few days ago, as you can see right here, October 21st. 88% of security breaches are caused by human error. And so the numbers are all over the place. Again, not human error, human risk. So our adversaries are seeing huge return on invest by attacking the human. But frankly, when we look at some of our security control frameworks and we think about defense in depth, this is the way that we're handling our risk, and we're addressing technology risk. Now, human risk should be built throughout the entire stack. And so humans are always going to be vulnerable because they're always emotional. And I keep saying they, I actually mean us. So we're all humans here. I'm a human. We're all vulnerable. And when we think, I've read it on multiple occasions, we need to patch the human. It's just never going to happen. You're telling people the only way to patch the human is everyone has to stop expressing emotion. And that is how social engineers exploit us. So what are some controls that we can put in place to reduce human risk? So let's first think about how ways human risks are exploited. So the red symbolizing this is really social engineering with ill intent or for bad. So social engineers will use fear, they'll use greed, curiosity, trust, helpfulness, guilt, shame, excitement, or reward, and more. So humans make mistakes that result in security breaches that have nothing to do with social engineering. However, social engineering is one way that human risk is exploited, which is through our emotions. We can also, as security professionals, use those emotions to our advantage. And we'll get to that more in a moment to get some examples. Attackers will exploit these emotions to get to their ends, and they understand that humans are the easiest to exploit because they have emotions that will never be patched. Let me just give you an example. I was on Apple News. This is probably a couple of years ago. And again, I've worked in the security industry for 17 plus years. 2 years ago, I have my fair amount of experience in the industry. I am a human, I have emotions, and I'm also vulnerable. Back to my story, I was reading something in Apple News and an ad came up, and it was for 5 DeWalt tools that was actually at a pretty good price. It wasn't too good to be true, so it didn't raise that many red flags, but it was actually a pretty good deal. So I clicked it, took me to this website. I checked it out. Not a lot of red flags were going off, mostly because it was on Apple News. Why would Apple News have scammy ads on Apple News? Or why would Apple have that on Apple News? And so I proceeded, gave it my credit card, paid for it. It didn't, no further scams, but what I got in the mail was a Slinky. And so I was scammed. Luckily, my credit card, pretty easy to dispute it, was able to get my money back, but they exploited my emotions. I really like power tools, and it seemed like a good deal, and they also exploited my trust. They were able to get on Apple News. I figured anything that's on Apple News as an ad should be legitimate. So they exploited my trust in that respect. So some ways that as security professionals, we can use these emotions, that we can also exploit these emotions for good. We can use empowerment, also trust, responsibility, confidence, belonging, curiosity, reward or recognition, and more. So when we look at any type of security framework, or whether it's SOC 2 or ISO or NIST CSF, there's a whole gamut of them. You'll look across the board and 90+% of those security controls address technology risk. And then the social engineering risk is addressed by security training, which is, in the realm of two security controls, usually security awareness training and also secure coding. Those are typically those controls. Now, keep in mind, 52% or more, again, being on the conservative end, are related to human risk. And we have 2 controls on average across frameworks. So we're using anywhere than less than 10% of most frameworks to address 52% of security risk. So something wrong with this picture. in many of these different frameworks. And I'll be the first to say that you won't see this throughout the presentation. I'm not going to suggest that most of security frameworks have human risk controls because, and you'll see through some of my examples, it's very difficult to define how do you implement human risk controls. But there are some ideas that you can be able to implement. But we can exploit some emotions for good, and the number of controls are really limited by our creativity. And I'll give just a few examples. So social engineering for good methods to exploit emotions. First method is constant engagement. So what constant engagement is, and this is me just taking a number of different things that I've read, cobbling together some statistics and really just summarizing this for all of you. When we look at annual security awareness training, on average, it reduces human risk around 5%. Periodic training, we're talking quarterly, maybe through engagements like Security Awareness Month, maybe periodic brown bags, those are going to be 15% reduction. Constant engagement is going to reduce the risk around 50%. Now, some ways that we can be able to do this is, yes, there is Security Awareness Month, annual quarterly security awareness training, weekly phishing campaigns. We're all familiar with these, and these do have value, but they're not the silver bullet that we think they are. I'll just pick on Security Awareness Month for a moment, and this might be an unpopular opinion, but really I think that's why we attend these conferences, to hopefully hear unpopular opinions. And that is, if the Ice Bucket Challenge, the catalyst for that was Security Awareness Month, I guarantee you it would fail. It would have flopped. No, it would not have caught on because, frankly, the only people who care about Security Awareness Month are security professionals. They're the only ones posting about it. You don't see your marketing department posting about Security Awareness Month unless you collaborate with them to post about it. And so Security Awareness Month, we should continue to do it. However, if you have a fixed budget for Security Awareness Month, constant engagement and spreading that budget out over an entire year is going to be way more effective than an isolation of security awareness in one month. So how do we constantly engage the individuals who can present this human risk, including ourselves as security professionals? Security does not need to be in the spotlight. We don't have to be constantly in everyone's face. What really should be in the spotlight is the business. That's what security professionals don't exist unless business exists. And so the business needs to be in the spotlight. So marketing, product, new features, sales, customer relationships, those should be in the spotlight. What should be the background? And after creating this, I realized it makes me a little spooky or a little creepy, security spying in the background. It's really meant to portray that it's in the background trying to portray this whispering, or almost like people in their subconscious are thinking about security, and how do we get them to engage in that way? I'll give some examples of what I've done, and if anyone wants to approach me afterward and share anything that they've done to be able to constantly engage, I would love to hear it because I love new ideas. And this is, like I said, it's difficult to be able to create a control framework on how we implement some of these controls, but there are ways that we can be able to do it, and it's important that we do because it does address a vast majority of our security risk. So one of the things that we have at our current company is we have a security channel that we call it Ask InfoSec. It's on Slack, and we promote this everywhere. It's like the one-stop shop. This is how you engage the security team, and we get all sorts of technical or non-technical questions, reports of hey, I got this. I got this text message from the CEO to buy me to have him buy gift cards. This is legitimate. All sorts of things where it's very easy and frictionless for people to engage with the security team. And so that's one way that we've been able to do that. Another way is brown bags. And I put embellishment allowed here because I just want to give an example. A couple of years ago, we did a brown bag, the company, and the brown bags are typically an hour long. I decided, you know what, I'm just going to make this like 10 to 15 minutes because I know people are not going to want to talk about security for 1 hour. They might be interested in learning about new product features or how we develop some sort of database schema that's what, or something that makes the business money. Talking about security for an hour, I'm going to lose people pretty quickly. So what I named the talk was how we how we were nearly hacked by Russia twice. And look, it was indirect. Russia did not actually try to attack us directly, but I was able to spin the story in a way that made it interesting, and gave a couple of examples about how we had a customer log in from Russia and it was impossible travel, but I was able to spin the story in such a way that made it interesting, in so much that I had people messaging me after it saying, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're on our side. Like, people just like fascinated by this fact that like Russia nearly hacked us twice. And yes, there was a little bit of embellishment in there, but it got people engaged and thinking about it. So having speakers at different events. So for example, in the past at previous jobs, I've contacted the FBI. They're more than happy to come to different company and community events to talk about cybersecurity. And so that really engages people as well to just kind of just be thinking about it. Personal security tips not related to the business, just telling people how they can secure themselves in their personal life. And that can be through any kind of medium, just like a quick blurb on a Slack channel or whatever it is. It doesn't have to be, like I said, in the spotlight. It can just be a very quick thing. Giving out swag. I'll get to more of that in a minute. And then recognition. I think I read a study once that said that they had tried to see like what motivated employees the most, and the default was, well, if we just give people bonuses, that's what motivates people more. But the study ultimately resulted in recognition motivates people more than money. And so recognition is huge. And so one of the things we do at our company is on at least a quarterly basis, we try to recognize in a public setting those who have demonstrated good security behavior. And I'll talk about that more in a moment. Oh, actually now. And that is through what we have our Omni Security Ambassador program. In this program, we just recognize any individual that has demonstrated any kind of good security behavior. They've reported something, they've asked a good question, they've even admitted to making a security mistake. They are the security ambassadors, and we recognize them. We used to actually give them gift cards because awarding people and creating a positive security culture is going to do way more in reducing risk, security risk, than any software ever will. Like I said, over 50% of security risk is caused by human risk. So if you have to spend several thousand on gift cards to recognize people, if your company allows that, it is money well spent to create that goodwill and get people thinking positively about security. We also, I run our IT team, and so we have like stickers. If you can see my laptop here, we do stick this sticker on every single laptop. And if I find someone who doesn't have that on their laptop, I kindly hand them one and ask them to put it on their laptop. And the idea behind this is when people are working together and talking about whatever it is that they do at work, they're subconsciously also staring at each other's Omni Security Ambassador stickers. And so again, it's just in the background. It's just something that they're thinking about consistently. Unconsciously thinking about. We also have our Security Champion program, which we have different engineering squads within our organization, and we have a designated security champion for each squad. Method 2 is to remove the pain. So outside of my office, there's these chairs that are sometimes locked to the table. I'm not kidding. It's like a long bike chain. It's woven around the chairs and locked to the table. I went out to sit in these chairs once, and I literally had to climb over the chair to sit in the chair, just to sit down to eat my lunch. So this is where security has gone too far. I don't know what they're worried about, if they're worried about someone stealing the chairs at night. Someone certainly could, but they're not that nice of chairs. They're a little rusted. I don't know if they're worried about someone picking up, trying to throw it through a window. Also, not considering risk because the windows are over 1 inch thick. So pretty unlikely for that to happen. So I'm not really sure what the issue is, but illustrate my point is this is causing pain and people being frustrated with the physical security of our building. So the definition of pain from the American Psychological Association. I'm going to read this word for it because it really drives home the point. Some individuals interpret pain as a signal to restrict physical movement or activity to rest the body. Individuals with pain may avoid any activity that could potentially induce pain. While this may be an effective strategy to cope with acute pain in the longer term, such behaviors lead to decreased mobility, causing patients to decline into inactivity, depression, and disability. Studies have shown that fear of pain may be more disabling than pain itself. So let me take some liberties and rephrase this and put this into a security context. Some individuals interpret the pain security causes them as a signal to restrict movement or activity. Individuals with security pain may avoid any security activity that could potentially induce pain. While this may be an effective strategy to cope with security pain, in the longer term, such behaviors lead to decreased security, causing users to decline into slow business activity, depressed profits, and disabled business movement. Studies have shown that fear of security pain may be more disabling than security pain itself. If there's anything I hope you guys take away, I hope it's this, and that is causing our employees pain actually distances themselves from security. The reason why is because of our amygdala. Our amygdala, really, well, think of the brain is our pleasure center, and the part that is responsible for pleasure and pain is the amygdala. So we can't social engineer for good if we're causing people pain. Whatever you do, we have to avoid these emotions that are associated with pain. We have to instead ignite the pleasure center of the instead, and we have to exploit that emotion instead. So let me give an example of someone who exploited pain in a very bad way. In this case, it was for their customers. Now, I'll give 23andMe the benefit of the doubt that the journalists may have twisted their words such that this title became clickbait. But let's just assume for a moment that 23andMe do truly blame their users for their security breach. They don't use passwords. It's their fault. So there was such an opportunity for awareness here for 23andMe. They could have instead said, hey, we are going to start enforcing 2FA for all of our accounts. This is going to be more annoying for you, but let's help you understand why we're making this change. We made a mistake by not enforcing this for all accounts. Passwords are difficult to remember, so users commonly create the same passwords or insecure passwords. We all do it. We're all human. That could have been their opportunity to be able to massage the pain, create better PR, and also create better security. But instead, they blamed the users and said they created insecure passwords. They chose not to turn on 2FA. It's their fault. It's not our fault that 23andMe got hacked or that their accounts got hacked. It's their fault because they didn't create secure passwords. And I think this was definitely the wrong direction to go. And I highly doubt any of these customers walked away saying, you know what, you're right. We need to do better at security. I'm sure they just distanced themselves more from the company. Method 3, say yes more. So going back to our chair example here, can't use the chairs, can't eat lunch at these chairs because they're locked to the table. Well, can't get hacked if you don't have a computer, can't operate in AWS if we just don't set up any IAM accounts. There's all sorts of situations here where we can actually stop security altogether. But what I mean by saying yes more is we have an opportunity to be able to remove the pain for the people and have an opportunity to be able to say, I think we are all inclined to step into these roles as security professionals where we want this inclination to say no. Really, I think it's probably our emotional response because we want to keep our jobs. We don't want the business to get breached or hacked. And so we're inclined to say no because it frankly just makes our jobs easier. I'm here to make the case that it actually makes our jobs harder because it likely increases the human risk. Because what ends up happening is if we say no and no and no and no, we're just going to continue to cause pain. And people don't like pain. They will disassociate themselves from security, and they also will find ways around those controls. So let me just give an example here. This happened just a couple of weeks ago. One of our sales reps who's in California had a very important phone call, and the next morning, the evening before, his computer completely bricked, just shut down. No idea what was wrong with it. he starts pinging me from his phone saying, I've got an emergency or I've got a very important phone call in the morning where we're trying to close a very big deal and I can't get on my computer. Well, we have security controls that you can't log in to certain applications, and in this case, our Omni application, without being actually on an Omni computer. So he said, I need to be able to log in on my personal computer. I just don't have time for this. I could have said no, but I understood that it is better for security to bend to the will of the business than the business to bend to the will of security. We made an exception, and I think it's important as security professionals, we track those exceptions and we make sure that they're disabled as soon as they're no longer applicable. And in this case, it no longer is applicable. He does have a computer now, and so is disabled. But we made an exception, changed our sign-on policies so that he alone could sign in from a personal computer. And sure, it could have been some risk, and sure, he could have maybe done some other things that might have caused problems on his personal computer. Maybe his personal computer is compromised. There is that chance. But that chance is worth it, because if we had said no, then it would have caused much more risk, because he would have actually caused thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. It would have caused a lot more risk if we had said no. Another example that I've had in the past is in our demo environment, we don't have any real data. However, we had MFA turned on. This is causing a lot of friction for potential customers and also our sales department, who uses demo all the time. They just asked, can we just have MFA removed from demo? And the answer is yes, absolutely. We can remove that because the risk there is minimal, because we don't have any real data. Now, there's possibilities someone could put real data in there and then it would be at risk, but it's just an opportunity to be able, the opportunity to say yes has more wins in that instance and actually reduces risk much more by the goodwill that's created. So this is just an excerpt from our mission statement, but really you could use it for your own, and that is to deliver stronger, smarter security solutions, provide peace of mind for, in our case, the venture capital ecosystem, and enable the success of our customers, employees, and investors. No further points to make here. Just that really, if you read between the lines here, it's about enabling the business and bending to the will of the business and the security team making exceptions as opposed to the business. Okay, method number 4, be a teacher. So I think all of us can understand that people come and complain about the pain that some sort of security control is causing them. It's slowing them down. Really, this is a huge opportunity to have a micro security awareness training. There are going to be instances, and I'm sure all of you thought of this as soon as I said, well, just remove the pain, bend to the will of the business. There are times where we just can't. It's just unacceptable risk for us to be able to make an exception. But this is such an opportunity for us to drop everything, because if we say no in this instance, we're about to lose a lot of goodwill and about to increase our human risk, or our human security risk. So here's an opportunity for us to be a teacher. So what I will say is we can't approach this with for security reasons, and instead speak in a way to the audience that understands the business risks. People don't immediately assume that for security reasons is for their safety. They often ignore the fact and are just annoyed that a security control is in their way and that they will find a way around it. You don't hear, for example, for sales reasons, we need to close this customer, or for marketing reasons, we need to capture more attention. It's really about the business and what impact this has on the business. And so there's an opportunity here for us to be able to be a teacher and explain to them why the security control exists, why we can't make an exception, and try as much as possible to remove the word no from our vocabulary, but instead offer the opportunity to be a teacher and explain security. And I can tell you, it makes a world of a difference when you're able to teach somebody why a security control exists. It makes them a better security professional, even if security isn't their profession. I guess in our case, we call it a security ambassador. It makes them a better security ambassador, and it creates better goodwill. And then they understand that it really is, even though it may cause them pain, we're able to massage that pain by teaching them why that control exists. So we really move from this graduation of security awareness training to be security professional teachers. And there's this study that was done in Arizona at the Petrified Forest, and they put up these signs. They had this problem where people kept taking pieces of the petrified forest home with them as souvenirs, which was illegal, and they had signs up saying that there would be fines, and they still had this problem, even though they had all these signs. Well, they decided to try a psychological experiment, and instead they started putting up signs that said, most people do not take pieces of the petrified forest home. And the amount of pieces from the petrified forest going home diminished rapidly. What that tells me, and what the conclusion was, is people don't like being told what to do. So if we walk into a situation again and we say, for security reasons, with no explanation, no rationale, no logic behind it, we just say no. People like to have an opportunity to be an opportunity for it to be explained to them. So when we, in the equivalent of, say, most people do not take this home, it's rational, it's logical. They're not being told what to do. It's just that most people don't do it. Why do most people not do it? Well, because we're in a national park and this is probably rare. So we're able to rationalize it rather than just being told what to do. Do not do this as a teacher. Do not do fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Don't use these kind of phrases. Well, we will get hacked if we don't buy this tool, or we will fail our audit if we don't implement this control. I'm totally guilty of using this, and in fact, I've used it as a last resort at times, because maybe I'm just not being a good enough teacher in explaining why we need a certain thing. But I can promise you that if you say the words, we will get hacked if you don't buy this tool, and you don't get hacked after not buying that tool, you're going to lose a lot of trust. So the conclusion here is, when we think about these different methods, these are the emotions that we're social engineering across the board. These are not the only methods we can employ. These are methods that I've been able to do in my career, and I welcome the opportunity to be able to connect and hear about other methods that people are employing to be able to reduce that 50+% security risk, which is human risk, and in exploiting these emotions. So this is often how we sell security as security professionals. We get this chocolate bar and slap a sticker on it and say, look, it's protecting the candy, it's protecting it from germs, and that is how we sell it. But really how we should be selling it is we need to be putting a nice wrap around it. I mean, both are probably protecting it to some degree, but we need to be selling security in such a way that it's not just for our customers, it's for the safety of our business. And I think this is going to allow people to be able to buy into security, and we can do things such as like tying back the security program to revenue numbers. What impact? How many questionnaires did we complete? How many SOC 2 reports did we send out to different prospects, and how much has that resulted in revenue or new revenue or recurring revenue? And that's an opportunity for us to be able to sell the security program and continue to create that goodwill that that security is good for the business. It doesn't just stop the business. So humans truly are not the weakest link. Now, some of you might be thinking after hearing my talk here that really this is manipulative thinking, and that this isn't actually social engineering for good. We should not be manipulating people into certain behaviors. And look, it's either we do it or the attackers do. And so we have to have an opportunity. And I don't think any of these are with ill intent, but I think it's an opportunity for us to be able to really get people thinking about security in a positive way. Humans are always going to be unpatched and vulnerable because of our emotions. But we are also intelligent, skeptical, willing to reason, want the business to win just as much as human defenders, i.e. the security team. And nobody wants to be played like a fiddle and be responsible for a breach. Nobody wants that. We all want to be the strongest defense, and we really just need to be shown the way by security professionals as good teachers. even if that requires the exploitation of our emotions. And truly, humans are the strongest defense layer. Questions? And that's just on my LinkedIn, not trying to exploit your emotions. Okay. I'd love to connect. Please hit me up on LinkedIn. Thanks so much for coming.